Welcome to another episode of Tank Talks, your personal think tank for all things startups and venture capital. I'm your host, Matt Cohen, founder and managing partner at Ripple Ventures. On today's show, we are talking about the future of work and how to invest in it with Gale Wilkinson from Vitalize VC. It feels like everyone has been talking about the future of work for the last decade, but only recently have we now shifted gears to think about how we should be investing in it instead. With remote work taking place due to the pandemic, everyone is mastering new technological solutions to be more productive and efficient at their jobs. We asked Gale how she thinks about the future of work and some of the concerns around automation and displacement of older workers that have been discussed in the media recently. We uncover some unlocked opportunities in the future of workspace right now that people should be digging into more, and what Gale thinks about all the Zoom lookalike apps popping up all over the place, and if it will last even when people return to the office. We discuss the trend of people maintaining several jobs at once without managers knowing, and how the creator economy is allowing people to turn their side hustles into main hustles while working remotely. Finally, we asked Gale to share how Vitalize has built an incredibly open and transparent community around angel investing and what her plans are for the future with Vitalize. But before we get started today, I wanted to share some exciting news for all our startup founders out there who are selling to the enterprise and probably getting lots of questions around their company's security posture. For anyone that is lucky enough to be part of building startups, we've all seen that mad rush to answer extensive security questionnaires and implement SOC 2 controls the moment that big whale of a client is on the hook in order to not lose that deal, which unfortunately ends up swallowing the entire organization's time and resources in the hopes to land that whale, right? Lucky for us at Ripple, we have partnered with compliance automation provider Drata. Drata saves our portfolio companies from these same issues when it comes to effectively proving a strong, ongoing security posture and achieving frameworks like SOC 2 and ISO 27001. Drata allows startups to put security and compliance in autopilot. Companies using Drata experience an average time savings of 85% when compared to running the SOC 2 process manually. Build trust with customers by proving your commitment to security and maintain continuous compliance in between your audits. Don't take it from us, Drata works with all kinds of startups like Clearco, Lemonade, Full Story, Slice, and countless others. They're backed by top venture funds such as Octa Ventures and GGV and are currently G2's #1 ranked cloud compliance software provider for customer satisfaction. Listeners of Tank Talks can get set up with a demo of Drata and take advantage of a 15% discount offer and waived implementation fees by visiting drata.com/Tank Talks to get set up today. Now let's get into this week's episode with Gale Wilkinson from Vitalize VC. Thanks for joining us in the tank today, Gale.
Hey, Matt. Thanks for having me.
The future of work is something we've been talking about for years now. But with the onset of the global pandemic, the conversations have shifted more to how we should be thinking about investing in it even more. It's crazy to think that at the start of the 20th century, more than 75% of the US population was still working on farms. Today, that figure has dropped below 2%. Driven in large part by industry consolidation into large technology-driven enterprises. And now in 2021, with the rapid evolution of AI and robotics and automation, many of today's jobs might also be handed by some of the smaller percentage of the population by even 2050. And with remote work taking place due to the pandemic, everyone is mastering new technological skills to be more productive and efficient at their jobs. So Gale, I would love to kick things off with how you think about the future of work and what changes have you witnessed over your career that has shaped how you think about work these days?
Yeah, future of work is changing rapidly and it will continue to do so in the coming years. It's a really, really exciting place to focus right now. In terms of the way that we think about it at Vitalize is specific to software only because there are tons and tons of definitions of future of work right now, and there's not really an industry norm that's emerged, which I think is important. There's so much in this space that all investors who focus here have a different take on it. And our take is a few things. One, transforming workflows. We like really big ideas and really huge shifts in how work is done today. This can be like new ways of thinking about marketing. For example, we invested in a company called Olympic that's really trying to do a game-changing software, leveraging data that is not like anything that's out there. These are the types of transformations that we're really interested that can move the needle by big, big amounts. The next is the move to fully distributed workforce. And if you had asked me about a year ago, I would say we're going to move to hybrid. But what I'm seeing right now out there is a lot of inertia from employees and even employers to go back. And what that means is there's a lot of infrastructure, a lot of connectivity, a lot of collaboration that we have to still figure out when you have a lot of people working from a lot of different places, plus some who want to go into offices. And what does that look like? And then the next one that we're really interested in is the creator passion gig shift economy. We're in really, really early innings here. So there's got to be infrastructure plays that set us up as more and more people want lots and lots of smaller roles that they can roll up into something that will sustain their career. And then finally, we're really interested in learning models. So when we think about learning at Vitalize, it's all about how corporates take what's available today and turn it on its head. So it's new trainings, it's upskilling, it's reskilling, it's engagement, it's fun. They want to figure out how do we both make our employees better and more efficient, more effective, but also make sure that they're happier at work. And a lot of learning is tied into this. So we're looking at new models, we're looking at social learning and micro learning as some trends within that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's crazy. People think about, the future of work as a post-pandemic future of work, but the infrastructure that went into being ready for this type of transition happened 10, 20 years ago. The rails were being built by some of the biggest companies like Amazon and Google, thinking about the cloud and thinking about, communication and OKRs and KPIs. Most traditional businesses did not operate in a data-driven focused workplace with the ability to allow people to work from anywhere until they were forced to do it because of the pandemic. So to now think about the way you are investing in the future of work, you are taking a 10, 20-year bet, right? And so people should not look at like the ideas today will be implemented tomorrow, but rather they're going to take a longer time to take hold, but you need to be building them today, right?
Exactly. And some of the companies that we're looking at, they're so early that it's, when we send them out to other co-investors, a lot of them are saying, oh, this is just so early. We need to see more traction. But we're really trying to figure out where's the puck going, to your point. And there's so much change that needs to happen that's already happened. And I think that the pace of acceleration is just going to continue to pick up in this space.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about some of the concerns, though, with the future of work. Much has been written about the current widespread anxiety over the future of work and how the need to protect those displaced by automation and other technological changes is happening. However, there's a long history of technological displacement of workers coinciding with substantial job growth. For example, email, word processors, or other modern office technologies have reduced the number of administrative assistants we needed. But they've also added the demand for computer programmers or engineers. With the advent of the internet, it spawned a need for thousands of web developers, an occupation that didn't really exist in the 90s. So Gale, what are your views on this job replacement concerns due to the automation issues everyone is fearing? And do you think it will be different this time around?
Every time there's a revolution of sorts, historically, there has been a shift in the type of work that's being done. You mentioned at the top of the call about, that we used to have mostly farmers. And then it was manufacturing jobs. And a lot of that has already been displaced. And in good ways, where we're leveraging technology to be more efficient and effective with people's time. Where I think the concern lies is we have to really figure out how can we reskill and upskill those workers who are being displaced. And so there are lots of ways to do that, both in the for-profit sector and the not-for-profit sector that we're looking at. But one of the opportunities that we see is really this the influx of math, science, engineering, data, machine learning that is required. There's such a gap in terms of the people and the labor force that we need to fill these jobs that there's huge opportunity to power this part of future of work moving forward.
Yeah, I guess maybe because we're, venture investors, we have to be eternal optimists when we think about the future. And there's obviously a lot of concerns with this displacement of jobs. But I've been reading a book called The New Geography of Jobs. It's not a new book. It's actually an old book by Enrico Moretti. And he talks about how jobs beget more jobs. The tech community in San Francisco is responsible for 5-to-1 creation of jobs for other services around that. So that one Twitter employee can create 5 other jobs for a bartender, hospitality, a hairdresser, services like that. But in the future of work and a remote work, I feel like there's going to be way more people working for Twitter or Google remotely in all the different places of the United States, maybe like Idaho, that's going to create more opportunities for more people to work. Do you see things the same way now with remote work happening?
Absolutely. And part of that is related to the gig economy that I mentioned. So interesting stat, I posted on Twitter for a friend who was looking for part-time help to design decks for his VC shop. And I literally got 400 direct messages. I mean, it was insane. And 500 likes on that post. So I thought, wow, this is crazy. What's going on here? And then the next day I posted an Airtable link saying, hey, if you're interested in part-time work with startups and VCs, fill this out. And we had nearly 700 people sign up in a matter of days for these roles. And so what I realized with that little experiment is that the way that we think about work is just fundamentally shifting. It is remote, to your point, where founders are now hiring and companies are hiring in different geos, but also just everybody is so much more willing to hire part-time and to think about part-time work. And how can we use what we like and what we're good at in ways to make money that just hasn't been available before?
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I call the creator economy. People creating goods and services, not just people like me creating stupid podcasts for people to listen to, but actual creating.
Great podcasts.
Thank you, Gale. But let's, double click on this. What gets you most excited about the future of work these days, and how are you thinking about investing in it at Vitalize?
I get really excited about this space in general because it's fun. We as people are all end users of this stuff. So a lot of it is what's called B2B2C. It's you were selling into the businesses, but then the end people who are using it are consumers. So I'll share a couple of cool deals that we've done recently so you get a feel of what we find really, really cool. There's a firm called Nowhere, and they're building a way to connect in really awesome virtual worlds. So think about, your company wants to invite an artist in to share some of the work that they've been doing and talk about their journey and what they've just created. And so you want a great place to connect remotely. And you can do this in this, visually beautiful and stimulating environment. So we see that companies want stuff that's cool, it's engaging, it's a way to allow people to meet, to mingle, to learn and to connect. So those types of opportunities are interesting to us. We're doing one right now in Chicago called hiitide. This is it's an online book club, and it's a next gen book club. So this is in really early innings, but think about how we used to consume books. We would read them from start to finish, and then that was paper based, and then it went to Kindle, and now what's the new thing? Because there's so much content out there that what hiitide does is take in all the information that an author has in a book, and their technology spits out these really innovative and engaging courses, which are super fast to take. It gets to the point. You can learn about this with your friends. You can also interface with the author, and you can start to, in a micro sense, develop a lot of acumen around these areas that are really important to you. And a lot of that translates to work. So we're betting that corporations are going to care about things like online communities to learn from authors and from influencers. So these are things that are still really, really in early innings, but they're coming.
That's really cool. I definitely see the enterprises taking more of a liking to how people spend their 5 to 9 hours. Like after their 9 to 5, what are they doing from 5 to 9? And how can we be a part of that in a non-work atmosphere? So whether it's helping them create book clubs, or it's more like related to creating a better culture experience with the job, which I think is really, really exciting and important. I have the Oculus VR headset. I definitely enjoy sometimes going into like the random rooms on like the poker chats and stuff. But I definitely think going out for dinner once in a while in the real world still has its benefits. Do you see a lot of people still fearing getting stuck in the metaverse a little bit too long?
I think they like being online for their regular day-to-day jobs, but they still want to do networking events in person, as well as conferences. And then what I think the cadence will be is about quarterly check-ins with the entire team. So we'll see a lot of corporate retreat models that make a lot of sense for, let's get everybody together a few times a year in person, but otherwise you can literally go wherever you want. And employees seem to be very comfortable with this when they have regular touch points, both within their teams and then also within the broader community via these networking opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely. But what about some overlooked opportunities in the future of workspace right now? Where should people be digging more?
Well, I think there's a lot in terms of mental health and burnout. I actually just posted on Twitter about this. And I think we're working too much now that everything's remote. It's so easy because I wake up at the same time, I don't have to commute, and I start working right away. And we're all working so hard. It's just not sustainable. So we have to, one of the things that I love within this space, it's all about productivity gains and efficiency and how can we get smarter using technology. And those can be incremental shifts. But I think that there's an opportunity for us to really rethink how we work. I think it was Bolt that just came out with the 4-day work week, and other companies are going to do that. But what else is there in terms of models and tactics and strategies that we as leaders at companies can do to start to reduce burnout and to make sure that our employees are, they're as productive as possible, but they're also happy and they want to stay with us?
Yeah, I couldn't agree. I mean, I remember when Shopify went fully remote, there were people that literally picked up and left and they just moved to like Bahamas or like Turks and Caicos or something because they're like, why would I stay in Canada in the winter freezing my butt off?
Right.
First of all. And two, I could probably run like six other businesses on the side while still maintaining my 4-day work week. What are you seeing out there in terms of people having like their side hustles become main hustles as well? I think people are running like 6 jobs on one laptop right now, aren't you?
Well, I guess I just have one, but a lot. And we do a lot at Vitalize. We actually just launched our new angel group this morning. So that's in addition to our fun, but very exciting. This is interesting. I've talked to a lot of people about this because there are some people that have 2 full-time jobs and they don't tell their employers about it. So there's a moral question, like how are we as employees going to handle that? And I think the good thing is at a macro level, it's way more acceptable now to have multiple things going on. And so my approach is just be very honest about it. And when you do that, then that's the abundance mindset and good things will come versus getting yourself into a sticky situation for having too much going on at one time.
Yeah, I agree. I think a lot of our startups like when there's that entrepreneurial, spirit and DNA in someone when they're recruiting them and they tell them that they have, their own Shopify store, or they've got some other side hustle being a freelancer. They like that because it makes them feel like they actually buy into the startup DNA as well, which I think is great.
We screen on that for sure. Like we love to hire people who have built something, whether it's on the side or primary, whatever it is, it's great experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Are there any types of products or services you're wary about in the future of work category? And if so, what are they?
I'm not wary of them, but just there's a ton of competition. And so, for example, a lot of talent marketplaces have come on the market in the last few years and are continuing to come on the market. So when I meet a founder who's starting a marketplace, which is intended to help job seekers find employers, people to hire them, there has to be an element of proprietary data that makes it really interesting. So I dig in with the founder on why is this different? How are you going to gather data from your system that will create additional value for your employers and your job seekers down the road? And if there's not a good answer on that, then I'm an immediate pass because once again, there's just so many of them that I'm wary that not all will be able to succeed.
Yeah, I mean, we were seeing a lot of the same with like the Zoom lookalike apps for team building, live gaming, and things like that starting to pop up. And then, Zoom just launched their app store as well. And I had a feeling like this was going to be a bit of a short-lived opportunity with like building on top of Zoom with, when they were probably going to be doing it themselves. Are there other areas you're seeing people trying to like just get a product out there quickly to take advantage of this dislocation, but it probably won't last very long?
I'm seeing a lot of businesses that are trying to capitalize on transient space. So you need to work. Can you go to a coffee shop and rent space from them? Can you go to a small business that has a back room that you can rent from them? Can you go to a hotel? Can you rent desks from other firms that have extra space? So lots and lots of models like this are coming on right now. And I don't know yet what the right answer is. I think people are still trying to figure it out. And so I am holding on making any investments in that space until I really see what are people telling us that they want to do in terms of going back to work or not.
Right. We were seeing some of the like home chef platforms coming out where, a lot of chefs and hospitality employees were displaced. So people started to use their own home kitchens as ghost kitchens, basically. They would be making meals for the week and people in the neighborhood can come and pick it up. I thought it was really cool. I didn't know if it would be short-lived. And so we also passed on that opportunity as well, because I didn't see it having a long-term viability if the things started to open up again and people started going back to regular restaurants and people realized that it didn't make sense to keep cooking from home when they can go back to their full-time job cooking at a restaurant. So I totally agree with you on that side. We talked a bit about this before on the creator economy side. We have a thesis of investing in it at Ripple. What kind of opportunities are you seeing in the creator economy that you're looking to place some bets on these days?
I'm still looking for them. I mostly see marketplaces. And like I said, there has to be a really interesting data angle. But I'm really curious about the infrastructure. So, for example, we hire a lot of part-time people at Vitalize to help with various things. And, figuring out tax compliance and payroll compliance and these like infrastructure things are a nightmare. And so nobody's been able to do this yet. I'm looking for infrastructure plays that are going to help with things like the back end operations, lead gen, like what else do folks in the creator economy need to power their business in a really interesting way?
Absolutely. The picks and shovels theory applies to the creator economy for us as well. We've built out a thesis on it. Another part that intertwines a bit with like Web 3.0 is how people can get paid part of their salary in stable coins because they may be working in different countries and they don't want to have to deal with a lot of that tax stuff. They can just get paid in some stable coins like USDC or something. That is something we're also looking at that intertwines with creator economy, freelancers, but also with Web 3.0 and DeFi, which is awesome. Reskilling and upskilling is something we talk about in the future of work these days a lot, but I'm also interested in the next generation of workers who are still in school. We are seeing companies like Amazon and Google help pay for college tuition fees, almost like sponsored degrees. At Ripple, we have our own RippleX fellowship program to help minorities and underrepresented students gain access to venture capital and startups. So first off, do you think we will see more corporate partnerships with universities and colleges for degrees that align more with the actual jobs for future graduates? And secondly, do you even think universities will exist in the future, given how many students are starting to make money basically just, selling NFTs on OpenSea?
So I do think that existing educational institutions in the higher education world are going to have to reimagine themselves. I do think that they're going to persist. A lot of them have huge endowments and huge alumni bases, and those communities will support keeping them alive and well. And they are important. I mean, it's a time when young adults can really go away from home for the first time. So we will see them. I think they will be reimagined. And I also think we're going to see new learning models come online, like on deck. Do you need to go to school, or can you take one of these programs where you get a community and you get the opportunity to build and to learn in the School of Hard Knocks, for example? And so I think we're going to have a little bit of both. And I personally am very bullish on corporates will need to get involved in the educational world. In fact, that's one of the reasons why our joint thesis is around work and learning. We really see them starting to blend for the reasons that you've mentioned.
Yeah, I can't wait to see the SpaceX school that Elon Musk launches on Mars when he eventually gets there. I'm very curious about this topic because I remember when I went to, college university, it was definitely more of a think tank, a community center that you got in a real world experience conversing with your colleagues that obviously students missed out on during the last year and a half during the pandemic. But I'm wondering now that students are back in school, are they getting the same feeling that they had prior to the pandemic? Or are they looking at school completely differently now that they've got a sense of what the real world could be like, or the new digital world that they were living in where they were actually making money? Like, what's the motivation to go back there, I guess is my question.
We work with quite a few students, and I know that they miss their friends. And that's the connectivity piece that's really important in future of work and learning, is how do we create communities in ways that still engage people? You've seen the data on how our social circles have really gotten a lot smaller over time. And so this is a critical thing for us to repair at this point. The good news is that the students that I work with, they definitely do want those in-person interactions, as well as just really close interactions with people in a virtual setting. I do think that we'll continue to see, in person as part of the educational system.
Absolutely. Another thing that we think about in the future of work and how it's affected minorities and people of color. How do you think we can help make a difference on these issues in the venture world? And what are you seeing out there?
Well, first, I love your program. I think that's exactly what we all need to do. Each of us has to find something we're passionate about and do it. So I applaud your efforts to get more people access to venture. And we're doing the same, similar at Vitalize. We just launched an angel investment group, which is truly open to everyone. It launched today. It's called Vitalize Angels, and there's a low membership fee to join. There's no deal fee or carry. You can invest as low as $1,000 into these deals that are vetted by our team. And there's education, there's community networking. We really want to reduce barriers for people to start writing checks. I'm personally passionate about, first, we need more diverse check writers to lead to more funding to diverse founders. So we're putting our money where our mouth is, and we're spending a lot of our time and energy to build out this platform, and would invite everybody to check it out.
That's awesome. I absolutely love those angel groups. And I think that's kind of how I got started, just networking with real world angels in the communities out of New York and Boston when I was living there. But let's talk about Vitalize and how you have built an incredibly open and transparent reputation around community and investing alongside your angel groups. What are your plans for Vitalize in the near future? And how can founders and other people in the venture community connect with you?
So we want to be one of the best seed and pre-seed stage firms in future of work and learning. So really early founders that are building from massive ideas in future of work and learning should come and find us. And in terms of connecting, we're on Twitter at Vitalize VC, at Gale Force VC, and then my DMs are open there. That's probably the best way to reach me. But I'm also easily findable on LinkedIn. Is findable a word?
Yeah, I think so. I got to ask, you're very, very good on Twitter, if that's a real thing, I guess. Good on Twitter. How do you how do you manage your time on Twitter so well?
So, well, the secret is I really don't spend a ton of time on it. Now today I am, because we're doing our launch. But my goal is to post one thing a day. And I started doing this last August. I saw, the great work that Elizabeth Yen and Lita Taub and Matt Conwell were doing. I'm like, you know what? This is important for us to talk about this stuff. So I just started posting once a day, and literally it's learnings that I have from conversations with founders primarily. So it's not like I spend a lot of time thinking. It's, okay, I talked to Matt about a startup and he was having trouble with this piece, and I can easily share what I shared with him more broadly. And then I just like to engage with other people on Twitter as much as I can. So I think if you add everything together in terms of the one post, reading news, and engaging, it's about 30 minutes a day on Twitter.
I love it. I mean, I definitely have to do that with the podcast. I do one podcast a week. That takes up some time, but I think I could probably do one tweet a week. Maybe I'll start with that before I go to one day like you and Elizabeth. Now, before we wrap things up, we always like to ask our guests for their fast favorites. So I list off 5 topics of each category and you name your favorite of each one. So first one, your favorite podcast.
It's yours, Matt.
Oh, come on.
So Samir Kaji, Harry Stebbings, Reid Hoffman, Guy Raz.
All right, let's stick with Samir. He's the best one out there for sure. Favorite newsletter or blog?
Axios.
Nice. Favorite tech gadget?
I guess my phone.
That's fair. Favorite new trend?
Here's what I hope is coming. I'm starting to see some better packaging, less plastic. I'm a huge plastic hater, so I want this trend to emerge even more.
That's a good one. Haven't heard that one before. I totally thought you were going to say remote work, but that's okay.
That too.
Of course. Last but not least, your favorite book?
We'll go with Brad Feld's Startup Community Way.
Perfect. All right. Well, thanks so much for joining us in the tank today to talk about the future of work and how you're investing it with Gale Wilkinson from Vitalize VC.
Matt, thank you.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Tank Talks. To learn more about this episode, be sure to go to Apple Podcast or Spotify to find more detailed notes on this episode or to check out previous episodes. Also, if you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a review and a rating as it helps us out a lot. And hit that subscribe button so you can get notified when new episodes come out. Finally, make sure to give me a follow on Twitter at Maddie B. Cohen or at Tank Talk Podcast to stay up to date on new episodes or to be a guest on our show. Till next time,